What's up? Yep, that's my intro. Hey guys, welcome back. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. If you like the video, actually like it. Hit that button. So guys, today we're going to be focused on subordinate city general. It's a very important topic. I do want to clarify a few things. Maybe people misunderstand. When you hear the terminology subordinate city general, I don't want you to get it confused up with mayor generals. Mayor generals are generals that comes with the mayor tag, and they're good for the construction of your subordinate city. Maybe they're good. For instance, we have Charles the Great. He's a gold production general. He increases the gold production speed by 75%. This is a mayor general. He's a general that comes with a skill that works inside the sub to help the sub reach a higher potential than normally it'll be able to reach in the areas that the sub is good for. But a subordinate city general is a general that's normally a debuff general. A debuff is, an example, William Wallace. It says reduces enemy ground troops. When you hear that word reduce, this is called a debuff. When you hear the word increase, this is called a buff. So when you see the word reduce, this is a debuff general, and we consider these debuff generals as subordinate city generals. And the reason why we call them subordinate city generals is because these debuffs apply when you're attacking and defending. So you want to use a non-debuff general when you're as your main general that you're using to lead your major army, while putting these debuff generals inside your subordinate city so that these debuffs apply when you're using your main general. An example is my general that I use is Hannibal. I use Hannibal, who is a mounted general, and I surround him as much as possible with generals that debuff ranged troops. Ranged troops are the nemesis to mounted because they prefer them in battle. So since Hannibal is a mounted general, I want to go ahead and weaken his weakness. So you'll see me put generals inside there that debuff range. If you have, say for instance, Alfred the Great, who's a ranged general, you want to go ahead and put debuffs inside your subordinate city that weakens ground. So which debuffs would you go after? I will say the best debuffs to go after will be health power and defense in general, because you want to be able to go ahead and kill off the enemy army as soon as possible. And the best way of doing that is taking away the health power. Health power is the blood of the general. The defense is like his shield. So you want to get rid of as much blood as possible. This is why you will see some players, they will go with 9 narrows, a narrow in every single subordinate city, because using the same general is very beneficial when you can amass them, as it will maximize that debuff. And 15% health power debuff is a very big debuff to the health power of any troop. So when you get in 15% and higher, you already know that's a very high debuff. So because of that, a general like Nero would be ideal for utilization. Another good general in this manner would be someone like Harold. Harold, he has only 10% debuff to all troops. And I'll tell you why this is so important. He also has another 10% debuff to all troops attack. So the reason why this is so important is because he's debuffing all 4 troops: ground, mounted, range, siege. He's debuffing all of their health power, and he's debuffing their attack. So for that reason, a lot of people consider Harold probably the best subordinate city general as a general debuff general to use inside of your sub, because he's hitting the troops from both angles. He's decreasing their attack and he's decreasing their health power, making them less dangerous and easier to kill. So he's one of those generals where people would focus on going ahead and utilizing on a large basis. A good I would say range debuff in general would be Whyknot the Great. Whyknot the Great, he debuffs the range attack by 25%, and then he comes back and debuffs ground and mounted health power by 15%. I already explained that 15% as being a very high number, and it makes him a very dangerous general to have. So this is how you should be utilizing your subordinate city generals, to continue on the same flow of how we went through a mountain general and the range general. If your general is a ground general such as Trajan, or whoever else the other one, Scipio, have you say his name. If this is your main PvP general, then you want to go ahead and debuff mounted troops. Now, when you're debuffing mounted troops, it is very difficult to decide what stat, because mounted troops have high stats in all regards. So you want to try to focus on the generals that have high attack debuff, such as Himiko, who's the Japanese general. She has a 25% mounted troop attack debuff. So this is a general who you might want to use if you're going with a ground-based general. And then at the same time, Nero still becomes a good general to be able to utilize. Whyknot the Great still, because of that 15% health power debuff, he still becomes a very, very good general to be able to utilize. So when you're looking at these different troop types, the most dangerous part of the mounted troop is his attack. The most dangerous part of a ground troop is health power and defense. All debuffs on the range troop is deadly for the range troop. They have some of the lowest attacks, defense, and health power of the game. Siege as well. They have the lowest health power and defense in the game. So you want to debuff their health power and their defense. But when it comes to mounted troops, you want to focus on debuffing their attacks. Another good mounted troop debuffing general would be Constantine the Great, who debuffs 20% of the mounted troop. I believe he's 20%. Constantine. Yeah, he's definitely 20%. He debuffs the ground and mounted troops attack. He also have a death survival rate of 10%. He goes ahead and he's going to kill more of the enemy's troop rather than just make them wounded. So another one you will see a lot of people using, if you're using a mounted attack general, would be Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is one of the premier mounted general, subordinate city general assistant, as he debuffs the attack of ranged troops by 20% and mounted troops health power by 20%, weakening them, making him a very good general to utilize. Another one would be Arminius. He debuffs the health and the health power of the ground and mounted troop. He's Europe, right? Arminius, yeah. He does something else too. And he also debuffs the range and siege attack by another 15%. And that's another good general you maybe want to utilize. Another one that people seem to utilize a lot, because of the defense debuff is, this one could definitely be even found, like Andrew Jackson could be found inside your tavern. And that's going to be Empress Dawaga 60. It's Empress, so it's a female. I always thought it was a male, but it's a female. It's Empress. It reduces enemy troops' defense by 15% and also enemy ground troop defense by another 15% when he's leading the army. That means he's debuffing the ground by 30%. And this is a general who you can use pretty much all over, because ground troops have the highest defense, highest health power in the game. So when you're debuffing them, their defense by 30%, you'll be getting to that health power a lot quicker. And not to mention, he'll be also debuffing all of the other troops by 15%. So it is one of those generals that you'll find people having multiples inside their lineup for their. So this is very important information. I hope you guys got it and understand it. So there you can see from this that there are various different subordinate city builds that you could possibly do. Some of the builds I can give you an example of. Maybe going with Nero and Empress the Wagger 60. If you got 9, maybe going 5 and 4. I would do 5 Neros and 4 Empress the Wagger 60s. This will give you 120% debuff to ground troops, plus another. That's debuff to ground troops defense, and then another 60% debuffs to all the rest of the troops defense, and at the same time giving you another 60% debuffs to all the other troops health power. So these are little tricks you could possibly do to help you, take out the enemy. When you're using like a mounted general, getting past the ground troops is pretty much what he's trying to do. He's trying to get past the ground troops and get the attack, the range, the siege, and the rest of the mounted troops. So this is what that troop want to do. So another methodology you could use is focusing on debuffing all of the ranged troops. Maybe going with debuffing all of their attack. You can go with like a Jester, since a Jester, I'm pretty sure most people do not have multiple Jesters. It was a very rare general who gives 15% debuff to all troop attack. It was given out during a special. You had to get all these little clown things that was on the field. Most people do not have this general. But you got other generals like Whyknot the Great. You might personally can go and use 9 Whyknots the Great, and that will give a 225% debuff to range attack. And that only applies, of course. You got to take into consideration what buffs the enemy has on their ranged troops, as well as what debuffs they have on your ranged troops, and that's how they come up with whatever number is going to be on your side. But 225% is a very, very high number. You would very much make their ranged troops probably insignificant and make your mounted troops so deadly by getting by and killing everyone else on the other side. But there are various different mixes that you can do in order to create a type of fighting style. This gives everybody a bunch of different fighting styles, and you can switch up your fighting styles based on your opponent. So, this is very important information. I do also want to go over dealing with putting weapons or gear onto your generals. This definitely does help your general, your subordinate city general, a whole lot, putting gear on them, because the attributes that is on the gear applies to that general. You might not want to sit around and refine all the gear to these generals until you finish all of the generals that you need for the other areas. Like you have 5 mounted generals, so that you're hitting bosses, plus 1 for the PvP. So that's 5 altogether, because you're not going to be hitting players and boss at the same time. So you want 1 main PvP mounted general and 4 other that'll help you when you need to send out 5. Actually 6, because you could get 6 march slots. You want 1 range general, you want 1 siege general, you want 1 ground general, you want at least 1 defense general. Some people like to switch up, starting out with Lethe Keith, and then putting somebody else in after the traps go down. However you want to do it, like Johnson or whoever you want to put there. Then you want to have, focus on after you have that, you want to focus on your sub-generals. Your other generals that you have inside your duty areas, you don't need to put any gear on those. You don't need to put any skill on those. You only need to go ahead and star those, and in order to get there, whatever rating up for what you need. But on your subordinate city generals, whatever extra gear that you have laying around, put those on your subordinate city generals. It will aid you in your attacks and your defense. Very important. A lot of times people hear me say, just put them inside your subordinate city. Don't worry about the gear. Don't worry about starring. This is mostly because, my targeted audience are fairly new players, and I don't want them wasting the material that's needed to build gear on their subordinate city general. And like, for instance, you get Harold, and you decide you want to build gear for him, and then now you get Martinez, but the gear is geared towards Harold. It doesn't really make sense. you want to focus on building up your PvP generals first. Whatever extra gears lying around, put those on your subordinate city generals as it will benefit. This also applies to starring. Medals do not come a dime a dozen. You got to really farm for those, especially later in game. It's 2,000 medals to get that 5th star on a general. So you don't want to be wasting all your medals, having 4 to 5 generals with 3 and 4 stars, and you can't get that 2,000 to get the 5 star. This is one of the reasons why I just say put the subordinate city general inside of there. Get the debuff for that time, and as time go on, if you have extra gear that you're not using, put it on those generals to get the extra benefit that these generals bring. Hopefully you guys got questions. You can hit me up in the comments. There's approximately 23 debuff generals that do different things. You have some that have death survival rate changing. A lot of them have attack debuffs, you know, but I just hope that you guys got the gist of what I was trying to impart to you by understanding that you can mix these different sub-generals up to create a type of build for your PvP general. Because that's what you're focusing on. You're creating a type of build. This also works when you're trying to build what they call turtle or trap account. You can put certain subordinate city generals in there that correspond with your wall general in a manner that picks up on his weaknesses and make him a stronger wall general. You could do that as well. So that's what I was trying to get you guys to understand. You can't really list the top debuff generals for your subordinate cities because it pretty much depends on the type of build that you're building for your city. Yeah, so, and last but not least, when it comes to putting skills on these debuff generals, even though you'll see players put in attack, defense, whatever kind of health power on these generals, the best things you'll see is going to be construction, maybe training speed, or gold production. Some people may even use training capacity. The reason why these are the best skills to use for these generals is because the only time these skills apply to the general is when that sub is being attacked directly. Is being attacked directly, then that general is the leader of the entire army, including the army that's coming from your city. That general is the leader of the entire army. So those skills would apply and not the skills of the general that's in your main city. So this is why it isn't really worth using those type skills because if once that general is attacked at one time, unless he's a general that's built up like a PvP general, you're gonna pretty much lose that first attack, or you're gonna win the first attack without that general being built up. And it's gonna be based off of how many troops you have, not so much so on how built up this general is. You know, even though this general Howard right now with this type of gear on him, he'd be really good and help defending himself, especially with the amount of troops I have in my city. You want to benefit the sub because the sub isn't going to be attacked on a consistent basis. You're going to be using it to attack most of the time. So you want to put things on there like gold production, training speed, construction to build the subordinate city up as fast as possible and as strong as possible. So hopefully you guys liked the video. Subscribe. And if you did hit that like button.